Welcome to the Improve81 podcast, where we focus on how the Virginia Department of Transportation is working to enhance safety and traffic flow on Interstate 81 in Virginia, its entire 325-mile stretch. So the I-81 Corridor Improvement Program, which we also call the CIP or Improve81, provides funding and guidance for about $3 billion worth of construction projects and operational enhancements. I'm Ken Slack, Communications Coordinator for Improve81, and joining me today are Dave Covington, I-81 Program Delivery Director, Matt Shiley, VDOT's Stanton District Traffic Operations Director, and Jonathan Meeks of VDOT's Central Office Traffic Division. So Matt, I'd like to start with you. We at VDOT know exactly what we mean when we say operations, but for the general public, give us an idea of what that entails.
So sure, Ken, I'm going to have you think about your experience when you're driving your car. Either you might be taking a short trip or a long one, but in either case, you are looking for highway signs and markings to navigate the road safely and to get to where you're going. You'll most likely navigate some traffic signals. You might experience a construction work zone. You might encounter a traffic congestion from a crash, or you could be detoured to another route because of that. You might see a digital message sign informing you what is ahead and what action to take. So those are just a few examples of traffic operations at work. It's really about VDOT working to ensure the safe and efficient movement of people and goods. And we use traffic control devices, processes, systems, facilities, and projects to do that. Traffic operations really impacts the day-to-day roadway performance, and ultimately it's the driver's experience navigating the facility. We have traffic operations centers that operate 24/7 to monitor traffic, coordinate response to incidents, and inform the motorist. We address things like traffic safety concerns. We maintain and design traffic devices. We set speed limits, design work zones. Those are just a few examples of the things that traffic operations is about. We use technology to operate the roadway using devices called ITS, or Intelligent Transportation Systems. So I get back to you thinking about you driving your car and that experience. So you most likely experience what traffic operations is about every day.
So when we're talking specifically about Improve81, the I-81 CIP, what are some of the operations enhancements that are part of that program?
So there were 9 curves on the I-81 corridor that were identified as high crash locations. And in those curves, we established some devices called flashing chevrons, which are basically warning signs with LED lights to draw the attention of the driver to the curve. A chevron is a type of yellow warning sign with a black chevron on a symbol on it to provide visual guidance to a driver when they're going through a curve. We had 31 new changeable message signs or digital message signs. You may have seen these out on the interstate with various messages on them to inform the driver about situations that are up ahead and what action they might need to take. But those are all controlled by our traffic operations centers. We installed 51 new traffic monitoring cameras. Those are also used by our traffic operations centers to monitor real-time traffic conditions. And also the public can access those on our VDOT 511 app to see real-time traffic conditions. We improved routing, and we also increased our safety service patrols. Our safety service patrols patrol the interstate. They are dispatched to incident scenes to respond to those crash scenes and provide safe traffic control. They can help disabled vehicles and motorists on the shoulder of the roadway and help them get to a safe location or get them moving again. We established an I-81 Towing and Recovery Incentive Program, also known as the acronym of TRIP. We also started some operational improvements to routes parallel to I-81. And those are really important to moving traffic because of an incident.
Pretty healthy list of improvements on the operational side of the house. And Dave, these were really some of the first projects out of the gate when the I-81 CIP first came into effect in July of 2019. Why did we start with these?
Well, we started with these for a couple of reasons. The most simple reason is that these operational projects tend to be lower cost, quicker to implement, and they have a good return on investment. The second reason is that all of these operational projects, operational improvement projects, not only do they work on a day-to-day basis to make the roadway safer and more efficient, but they also help us when we're trying to construct these large-scale widening projects that we have along the corridor. So all of these operational projects work as a system, and they help us to manage traffic and manage incidents in and around work zones. So it really was a strategic effort to deploy operational improvement projects, and then on the backside of that have some of the larger construction projects occur.
Now, one of the things that is unique to the Interstate 81 is that the majority of the delays that we see on this interstate are the results of incidents. And quite often we're talking about, tractor trailers and other commercial vehicles, whether it's a crash, a tractor trailer that's overturned or caught fire, and we've got lanes closed or sometimes even, the entire, say, northbound side closed. And that is where the TRIP program comes in. Matt mentioned it briefly, our towing and recovery incentive program. But Jonathan, tell us a little bit about how the TRIP program really, kicks in when we see these kinds of incidents.
So collisions involving tractor trailers and other commercial vehicles are a major contributor to traffic congestion, often affecting multiple lanes of travel. The TRIP program is strategically designed to promptly and safely clear impacted travel lanes, effectively reducing the likelihood of secondary crashes within the congested areas. This proactive approach demonstrates our commitment to efficiently addressing these incidents and improving overall road safety and traffic flow.
If you want to improve something, if you want to improve performance, behavior, whatever it may be, you incentivize it. So what this program does is it incentivizes the towing professionals out there who already do a great job. But what we're asking them is, can you do better? Can we drive our clearance times down even more? And the solution to that is creating an incentive for the towing industry to do things like enhance training, enhance the type of equipment that they have on hand that they're bringing to an incident zone, and to drive that response time down. And we have seen positive results. We have seen that we've incentivized the towing industry. They have invested in training. They have invested in equipment. And what we are seeing as a result of that is approximately a 23% reduction in clearance time.
Nice. And those are basically from our first 3 years of the program. It started right around Memorial Day of 2021. So we've got, we have some data that helps to back up that this program is working. So Jonathan, tell us a little bit about, what you have been seeing as far as the results of 81 TRIP.
Prior to the TRIP program's implementation, crashes with tractor trailers and other commercial vehicles caused long travel delays. However, with the expansion of the TRIP program to the I-81 corridor, the average time to clear a lane after a crash has occurred has been significantly reduced to just 38 minutes from the time law enforcement issues a notice to proceed to the TRIP provider. Additionally, the average time to clear the entire crash scene has been reduced to 2 hours.
And we talk about things like minutes and hours, but anyone who's ever been, let's face it, stuck on 81 because there's been an incident with a commercial vehicle knows that's frustrating, and you've got somewhere you need to be. But there's also a big safety factor here, because every minute that we have a lane closure and traffic backs up, we have the risk of a secondary crash, which sometimes can be just as severe. Those minutes count, and so it's good to see that the efforts that we're putting in through the TRIP program are starting to pay dividends. We are talking about operations improvements along the 325-mile stretch of I-81 in Virginia, and we're talking with Dave Covington, the I-81 CIP, the Program Delivery Director, as well as Matt Shiley, Stanton District Traffic Operations Director, and Jonathan Meeks from VDOT's Central Office Traffic Division. So Matt, most of these operational improvements we're talking about outlined in the CIP are completed, but there's still some work going on out there, right?
There is. So the remaining projects that we're working on for the operational improvements are the parallel route improvements. These involve construction of improved technology for our traffic signals, so that when traffic does have to detour from 81 to other roadways, the signal timing can be remotely changed and managed to adjust for the increased traffic. Our goal is to keep traffic moving, and we want to use all available capacity of the transportation network to do that. These last operational improvements is really challenging work. Some traffic signals are owned and maintained by VDOT. Some go through localities where a city maintains and operates the signals, and so that requires us to coordinate and develop operating agreements established with these localities, changing out equipment for signal cabinets, in addition to upgrading VDOT's signal communications equipment and using fiber optic lines for remote communications. So all of this allows our signal engineers and technicians to quickly respond by monitoring and changing the signal timing, and it really helps us to accommodate more traffic volumes on the detour routes. There were about 18 projects on the I-81 corridor. There were 7 in Bristol, 5 in Salem District, and 6 in Stanton District.
We still have some of those ongoing, as you mentioned, but we're getting close to getting everything wrapped up.
We are. Those projects are slated to be completed in 2025.
We are about 5 years into the I-81 CIP, and there are numerous construction projects going on right now along I-81 in Bristol, Wytheville, Salem, Stanton. Several more are going to be coming online as we go into 2025. And you mentioned earlier that in this conversation, one of the benefits of doing some of these operations improvements first is being able to really help keep traffic moving through these work zones. How does it do that?
All of this works as a system. But I think if we look at like a hypothetical scenario, if we look at a tractor trailer crash on I-81 that is blocking both lanes in one direction, so we've got a closure. What happens? Well, we installed additional traffic cameras. So we're not quite at 100% coverage of the traffic cameras on I-81, but we're getting there. We're getting close. So the Traffic Operations Center recognizes that there's a crash because of these traffic cameras. So the first thing that they do is they, obviously state police is called, but they called the Safety Service Patrol. And there happens to be a Safety Service Patrol operator that's 3 miles up the road that can get down there and put their message board up, put some flashing lights up to help protect that scene until emergency responders get there, and even after emergency responders get there. So the next thing that the Traffic Operations Center does is say, hey, wait a minute, we've got an interchange right up the road here. We've got a digital message sign that's on that arterial route, not on the interstate. And they put a message up there that says, hey, there's a crash on southbound I-81, 3 miles south of here. You may want to consider an alternate route. So what they just did was they just prevented additional traffic from coming onto the interstate that creates even more of a queue, even more of a problem. So they were able to communicate directly with the traveling public to tell them to change their direction, change their route, which me personally as a driver, I really appreciate that. I'd rather not be stuck in that queue on the interstate.
Gives you a chance to make that decision before you commit.
It does. It does. So meanwhile, as all this is going on, state police arrive at the scene and they say, ooh, this is a pretty significant crash. It's a tractor trailer. This is going to be a trip call. So they call the trip provider, the towing provider, who respond with the right people and the right equipment to resolve that crash pretty quickly. They're able to get the tractor trailer upright, and maybe it's off to the shoulder where it's, out of the way and can be recovered later. Maybe they just go ahead and tow it right then and there, depending on the scenario. But they get the lanes cleared in, as Jonathan said, about 38 minutes so that we can get the traffic moving on I-81 again. So then the Traffic Operations Center can go back to the digital message sign and either just turn it off if there's no message, or let people know that the road is open now. So you can see the evolution of all that. And what was at the center of this? The Traffic Operations Center. So this is like air traffic control for the interstate. They're receiving information, they're communicating information out, and they're the ones that are constantly being informed about the condition of the incident on the interstate.
At the same time all of this is happening on the interstate with the tow providers and the TRIP program, Virginia State Police, SSP, we are also starting to be able to take advantage of some of these parallel route improvements that Matt was talking about, where we have made some enhancements along, say, Route 11, Route 262, 460. Some of these roads are going to bear that extra traffic from the interstate. Any enhancements that we can make to automatically be able to improve the signals along that corridor and keep traffic moving until we get things back up and running on 81. It all works together.
And as soon as the Traffic Operations Center puts something on a digital message sign that there's a crash ahead, the first thing that people are doing is looking for that alternate route. So then your parallel route, your detour route, becomes much more congested. And if that's happening in an urban area, that can be a big problem. People can't get out of their driveways. People can't get in and out of businesses. And the stoplights are not timed to accommodate that. And that's where the Traffic Operations Center can remotely change the timing of those signals, generally to give preference to the through traffic, to clear that queue so that traffic can get back to normal and we don't have secondary crashes on the arterial route. So you're exactly right, Ken.
And also, Matt, I know, we sort of have the ringmaster of some of these incidents, our incident management coordinators who help make sure that everything works together, right?
Yes, we do. Actually, VDOT does have some positions with the role of being an incident management coordinator. We refer to them as IMCs. They are called when we have incidents blocking lanes on the interstate to really get there and be a resource for the other emergency responders, the state police, the towers, EMS, the fire department. But the IMC really gets there to help coordinate those resources from the VDOT perspective and ensure that things are progressing along to get some lanes open, maybe provide a shoulder where traffic can move along past the scene, along the shoulder if we can. So they're really working with as a team with those other emergency responders. And they also oversee the TRIP program that we mentioned earlier.
So it all works together, all in concert, and sometimes the IMCs are the ones that are helping direct all of that. We hope that this podcast has been helpful to you because, a lot of times when we talk about the I-81 CIP, sometimes there's an automatic focus on quote-unquote big projects, our multi-lane widenings through several miles of interstate that carry some large price tags. But there are a lot of improvements that we have made and continue to make along this corridor on the operational side of the house that really help keep traffic moving and enhance safety as well. So Matt Shiley, Jonathan Meeks, Dave Covington, I want to thank all of you for joining us today and really shedding some light on how these operations enhancements make a big difference along the I-81 corridor in Virginia. I'd also like to thank you, the listener of this Improve81 podcast. VDOT now has dozens of these podcasts and nearly as many videos as well that help show and tell what's happening on Interstate 81 in this great Commonwealth. So we invite you to check out our videos and podcasts, as well as quarterly newsletters, an interactive map, and a whole lot more resources at improve81.org. And as always, we wish you safe travels.